Well, greetings, Carl.
Hello, Michael Ernest Kitces the seventh.
First,
The first, that's right, the first. The
what
one and
else can have a
only.
name as crazy as this?
The one and only.
The
That's
one
right.
and only. That's how I
That's
got the
right.
domain name. Actually, it was
That's
a
right.
problem because my father actually squatted the domain name before me, and I had to go get it from him 20 something years ago. He was kind enough to let me have it, so that was good.
Wow, very nice. This, we shouldn't spend very much time on this, but I had Carl.com in my shopping cart for $10,000. And I
Honestly, that
couldn't.
actually
I
doesn't seem
know.
bad.
I know.
Like,
At the time I was like,
if you
there's
are inclined
no.
to spend on premium domain names, like that's really not bad.
No, I was like, there's no way I cannot do that. There's no way I cannot do that. I just look something like I think it's I am Carl or Carl.co is for sale for 95,000. Like Carl.com is way, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
anyway,
So like that that
come
would
to
have been
me
your
for
single
day trading
greatest.
advice.
That would have
Yeah,
been your single greatest investment if you could have scooped every other Carl on the planet
that's right.
by getting
That's
the
right.
domain name. See, now I'm just
Come to
wondering, like,
me.
who's got
Yeah.
Michael.com and how's that going for them?
Come to me for day trading advice.
So, last episode, we talked a bit about like all these dynamics of what does and doesn't change in our advice business as AI kind of rolls through, right? Like what are the skills that persist, what becomes more important, what becomes less important. So we had a great follow-on comment from one of our wonderful listeners. Yes, when you email us with comments and
Yeah.
like things you want us to talk about, we really do like listen to them and
Yeah.
act on them. So we had this great comment that came in that just I'm curious for your thoughts, kind of extending this theme further. So here is what
Hmm.
was written in. With all the comments about evolution of AI over the next couple of years, I I agree with you guys. I don't believe my job as a financial planner is at stake. But but I'm very concerned that a material percentage of my clients are going to be laid off as AI eliminates jobs faster than the marketplace can add new ones. And if my clients don't have jobs, they don't have money to pay for financial planning. They likely need to draw on retirement funds in order to survive. How do you think through this concern? So
Hmm.
maybe if you'll grant us that advisors will be okay, it doesn't mean all consumers will be okay. It doesn't mean all clients will be okay. If you believe any of the theme that AI seems to be coming for a lot of proverbial white collar work. The reality is advisors disproportionately serve white collar clients because they tend to have higher incomes, more ability to pay for financial planning fees, more disposable dollars to save into retirement accounts and accumulate wealth, right? All the things that fit financial planning models well. So,
Hmm.
what what happens if we're okay, but clients start getting impacted?
Hmm.
Which I think
Yeah,
spans everything from what do you how do you plan to how do you talk to them about it?
yeah. I mean, we can get specific if we need to, but I kind of like the idea of backing up just a little. And again, I like the idea that you've just held one assumption constant, so we don't have to deal with it. Like we're holding the assumption constant that, but we don't like we had a whole conversation about this. We're not sure we know or we agree that all financial planning jobs are safe, but we're gonna set that aside. Um, I think backing up a little bit to because I've been really, really surprised. No, not surprised. It's been interesting to me how many conversations I've had recently with really smart, these are sort of like author friends, or in fact, one of them's she's an executive coach, and honestly, maybe one of the most like emotionally, PhD from Harvard, super smart, one of the smartest people I know. Her name's Jennifer,
Okay.
and executive coach to some really senior people. And she was telling me she just her specialty is making mission critical decisions in the face of irreducible uncertainty. So like you've gotten to the point where you've done everything
Mission critical decisions in the
in the
situation
face.
in the face of irreducible uncertainty. So She makes really big, hard decisions when no one actually knows the answer.
That's exactly right. Like you've gotten rid of all the reducible, right? Like
Yeah.
you've insured things, you're left with this pile. I always think of like risk is what's left over after you think you've thought of everything. So you've already thought of everything, you still got this pile. And she's just like, I just don't, it's such a hard time right now. And so I think this question may be pointing to that of like, how do we give advice? How do we help people plan, right? Like the word plan in an environment where I don't think there's any debate. Maybe there's some a debate to be had, but I don't think there's any debate. Like more uncertain than I ever remember. I'm not saying bad, by the way. I'm just saying uncertain.
Yeah, I would certainly grant uncertain. I mean, I'm still in the camp that I think the actual wake of job destruction is going to be less severe than a lot
Sure.
have made it out to be. But A, like I can certainly grant there's really wide error bars on that to
Yeah.
turn out
Yeah.
academically. Like there's a very wide range of uncertainty around that prediction and how wrong it can still be if things maybe compound a little bit further than I think they're
Yeah.
going to go. Uh, and so in that spirit, yes, there's just a very literal, almost palpable level of uncertainty, right? Like I don't think, no, Mr. and Mrs. Client, like I don't think your entire careers are going to be rendered moot by AI in 3 years. And I really can't say that with total certainty.
Yeah. And you
Like,
add,
I
and
really can't.
remember,
I really
right.
can't.
Well, and remember, AI is just one teeny piece of the uncertainty, right? Like, and again, like holding politics neutral,
Yep.
I would say this is a very uncertain time in the global economy, trade, tariffs, just
Yeah.
staying
Yeah, but
neutral about politics. It's pretty uncertain.
to me there is something I don't know. There is something more existential around the AI threat and like the
Sure.
conversations than I mean, frankly, like any of the other things you just mentioned that are all the things that we otherwise have to deal with clients in dealing with uncertainty, right? Like the path of the markets are uncertain because I don't know how the tariffs are going to turn out and I don't know what the legislation's going to be and I don't know how the midterm elections are going to go next year and even if I knew all that stuff, I'm not actually certain how much of it is priced in the market versus not and whether that will make the market go up or down, right? Like there's a range of uncertainty that we always deal with in helping the clients navigate around these combinations of the economy, which can impact their portfolios and their jobs if they're still of working age, or their businesses if they're business owners. I feel like there's always been a layer of that we have to deal with forever, right? We make a
Yeah.
plan to try to handle some of the contingencies. And that's still fundamentally different than
Yeah.
but maybe in 3 years, AI does literally my entire job and there's no recovery for it. I mean, like, at least recessions have recovery, market declines,
Sure.
climb back, economies reshape themselves to some extent. I can't work for my old company, but I went and worked for their competitor that navigated the economic
Yeah.
thing successfully. That's really different. Like, yeah, I had a chosen career and vocation. I've been doing it for a decade or two, and it just literally got obliterated by AI, and the whole
Yeah.
thing doesn't exist anymore. My whole job
Yeah.
category doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and that could happen in relatively few years. Again, even if
Totally.
you are skeptical about how much that comes, like the fact that it's even on the table
Right. Right. Right.
is just a
Right.
whole other level of dynamics around, I think, both fear in the face of that kind of uncertainty, that kind of
Yeah.
extreme uncertainty, and some very real questions per our advisor friend who wrote in, like, what do you do with that? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you actually plan for that? What conversations or planning strategies do you can think about for clients in those situations beyond, well, the reason we do annual financial planning is that if life changes and the world goes sideways on you, we'll sit down for our annual review meeting and start planning, right? I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes we've got a little bit of that as, yes, we do that and it's really important. And Sometimes it feels like a small bit of a cop out for like, okay, but can we actually plan for some contingencies and not just say, we'll be here by your side, and when the crazy AI things happen, we'll navigate this together.
Yeah. Yeah, I no, I agree. I was simply pointing to the fact that like layered on top of, like so you just got this mix, and of course the AI thing is the thing. And so then you're back to normal questions, which are is this time different? And we have all the warnings against asking that kind of a question. The last four words or whatever of any great
So
investors,
it
this time it's different.
is is that question different to you when we're talking about, you know, I call it technological threats as opposed to market threats?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the question we're asking is what does so okay, so one side of the planning equation would be what do we do if you lose your income? The other side of the planning equation would be what do we do with the plan, the investment plan and anything else that the cash flow plan, what impact does that have? And if you it feels to me like when I'm in uncertain terrain, I want I have a natural tendency to fly to simplicity, like to a flight to simplicity, to find simpler terrain, to make things simpler somehow. And so I look at my job like, okay, and the 3 year, 5 year projection of what AI may or may not do, that as you pointed out, the boundary conditions are kind of unknown.
Yeah.
You got people, smart, legitimate people that should be listened to saying it's going to, obliterate, yeah, this whole thing. And then you got other smart, legitimate people saying it's not going to be that big of a deal. So we just got this huge amount of uncertainty. So I don't know what to do with that because I can't make that a lot simpler. So then I say, okay, well, what else could I make simpler? What else could I make? I'm not quite sure I want to say more conservative, but like how could I get simpler? And then we can talk about the emotional piece. Like how this is the question we're really asking. How can I make myself generally more resilient? Because there's no specific event, like
Right.
event specific resilience is what we're really good at. We call it risk management. And we do that by looking at the event that just happened and go, okay, let's prepare for that event to happen again. But this is a new event. They always are new. Like the
Right.
the the real risk is the thing we haven't thought of. And this is one of the things we may or may not have
Yeah.
thought of. So how do we make ourselves generally more resilient, like, to that kind of a shock? And so we start by saying, okay, what happens with the income loss? What could happen? What could we do there? And so what kind of conversations do you have around there? Like you start exploring,
Yeah,
you
because
start brainstorming.
I do feel like it is very income centric. I mean, not to be totally blasé about very real dynamics, but I mean, you highlighted like there's implications for your income plan, there's implications for your investment plan. I'm like, obviously this is a gross oversimplification, but if you're really worried that AI companies are going to put everything out of business, buy some AI stocks. Like, and
Right,
it's like
right, right.
own a diversified portfolio that includes the companies that benefit when AI goes well, as they kill the companies
Yeah.
that lose to AI, and like bless the economic system in the aggregate. Like that's either that's why indexing works in broadly, and owning the market carries that in proportion to what it's going to do. If you are actively inclined, you can go find yourself AI companies that you believe are going to be the particular winners in this outcome, either because you're betting on AI, or like you want to buy some high flying AI stocks because you're hoping they actually go broke. But at least if they go big, they'll cover the fact that you lost your job. So
Hmm.
um, again, I'm obviously oversimplifying some investment dynamics, but it just feels like on the investment side, like I actually know how I know ways to invest around this, because companies that lose market share to companies that win, and if I've got an investment portfolio, I can invest in those. Like it's the income part, it's the job part, it's the I've trained
Life
my life
part.
and career to do this thing, and now apparently no one will pay me for it anymore because AI is doing it. again, that's both the scary part and I feel like the more, dare I say, the more impactful part and the harder part to plan around. I mean, in that vein, from a pure, I know, financial planning sense, and I guess to some extent, um, a business owner sense, I'm like, what do I do with that? It's like I accumulate cash,
Yeah, let's get,
cashy
maybe this will be
cash.
helpful.
Like,
Let's get really specific. Let's pretend we do not know. I do not know. I'm just going to pretend. One of the things that I'm hearing most about is software engineers, or we could pick on lawyers. Lawyers are more fun to pick on, so let's pick on lawyers.
sure.
So let's just, you hear a lot about software engineering, law, like
Yeah,
those are two areas that people are like, oh, this is going to be eaten by AI. Let's pretend like that's true. You've got a client who's an attorney. He's 45, height of his career. She's a partner at a law firm,
yeah,
and they're actually pretty convinced, like, I can see this happening. Like, this is going to be a problem. Now, whether it will or not, a whole nother, we don't know. It's
yeah,
the whole point of uncertainty. Like, what do you do with those people? I mean, there's a whole conversation to be had about the the emotional side of this, which I do want to make sure we save a little bit of time
yeah,
to talk about. But what do you do with somebody who's actually like, okay,
yeah,
whether it's, I don't want to over index on lawyers. So let's also do, I have a friend who's a software engineer who's always been independent, runs his own his own programming company. And he's always had 9 or 10 clients at one time. He's always been so busy. Right now, he has 3 and those are wrapping up. And he's literally like, I do not know what I'm going to do. And he's 47. What do you do?
So I mean, my like gut response comes in sort of two flavors. Number one, um, I need cash. Like, just I need liquid dollars to weather the storm, right? If I'm gonna have to go learn another career, learn another industry, adapt, redo my software engineering business to something that's like software adjacent enough that I can use some of my marketable skill. Like, I also know how to run a business. So apparently I'm going to wind down my software engineering business and I'm going to run a local HVAC business because according to the Wall Street Journal, those are great businesses and people make a lot of money and AI is not automating your physical HVAC installation anytime soon.
Right, right.
So like, okay, I can take my business owner skills and business owner in a new place. I can take my lawyer skills, which beyond lawyering is a lot of critical thinking and analysis, and maybe find some adjacent places to do that. I mean, frankly, if you're a good lawyer, critical thinker who relates to their clients, well, I hear financial planning is going to do fine, even if
Right,
lawyers
right,
get knocked out. So maybe
right.
we'll solve our industry talent shortage because all the lawyers that get knocked out of the legal business will come be financial planners.
Yeah,
But like lightheartedness aside, like cash
yep,
and some planning about what, or at least some thinking, some exploration of what industries or paths or careers might I explore
yep, yep,
if this doesn't work out. Right. Like
yep.
for your examples of folks that are in their 40s, like, as someone that's in my late 40s, old dog new tricks gets a little hard. Like, if I gotta figure this out because AI obliterated my world, like human beings are remarkably adaptive. I will find a thing. I will figure it out, but I sure won't necessarily make what I've been making in the past anytime soon.
Yep.
At best, I'm starting over in a new industry and world, and I may have some time period of zero or negative income while I'm getting my new thing started, right? I got to invest in a new business to launch. I got to invest in a training or education, a new career to get a new career going. And so, okay, if I say if the bad thing happens, it's going to be a few years of you having much lower income while you try to do whatever you can to bring any kind of income in and learn and retrain towards a new industry. How do I bridge that? I mean, the answer is cash, or at least things I can readily convert to cash. Which, I mean, slightly more practically speaking, I'm like, do I need to dial down the risk in your portfolio and own heavier fixed income allocations because I need more stuff that I can sell liquid if the AI bad things start happening, and all of a sudden you're saying my income's about to drop like a rock and I'm going to have to go to a new industry. Do I think about not contributing so much to retirement accounts where I may have tax penalties to get the dollars out and put more after tax into a boring high yield savings account, clip my interest coupon for the next 2 or 3 years because I might slightly under earn the long term return in stocks, but I need cash available to navigate my career income much more than I need to get the particular average return in the stock market for the next 2 or 3 years, which may or may not be the average return in anyways, because returns are uncertain and this is not investment advice.
I agree. I don't think it's much different. You've I mean, should be careful with that phrasing, but like tactically what you do when uncertainty ratchets up, you look for ways to make things simpler and get to simpler ground, safer ground. And so if a client comes to you, this is very, I think one of the things that's tricky here, I was just thinking about this, is we've got to keep our opinions or feelings or fears off clients' plans.
Yep.
So, if you've got a fear that the whole world's coming to an end, well, that's one thing. But if a client comes to you and says, man, I've always had 9 gigs going. Right now I have three, and all three of them have told me they're not going to renew. I don't know what's going to happen in 7 months. Okay, well, now we know what to do here. We say, okay, well, can we reduce burn? Can we, that's getting to safer ground. Can we reduce burn, right? Like,
Yep.
can we find, can we increase safety in terms of make things simpler on the investments we own, like in terms of like what you're mentioning, cash? Can we, if things got dramatic and we decided, you know what, I've had it anyway, because I was thinking this the other day, actually. I was talking to the guy that does the neighbor's landscaping because I had a question because I was like, hey, how do I fix this problem? And he was telling me that he can't hire anyone, like he can't find anybody. He's offering kids $40 an hour to do landscaping.
Good Lord.
And I know. And I was like, you're so busy. And he was like, yeah, I have endless jobs. And I'm saying no 9 times out of 10. I'm saying no. I was like, man, I actually found myself as I do. My family always makes fun of me. I came inside and was like, hey, I think I might start a landscaping business. So let's say you decide to like you want to go do that. Well, then you've got other questions like, uh, how is real estate done? Is there something you could trim back on housing expenses? Are you gonna have to retool your whole career and you're gonna start a business? Well, you do starting business things, right? Like reduce burn, have cash, find a way to make things simpler. Those are the kind of conversations I think you have. You know what I mean? It's not it's the only thing that's different here is the level of existential threat that is in the air, at least the
Yeah.
perception, at least. That's the only thing that's different. This isn't much different from somebody who, got laid off unexpectedly years ago.
But
It's kind of the same policy, the same process.
I do feel like it, I mean, it is powerful to reflect on or just things that are so common for clients in a wealth accumulation perspective that I feel like you, it is like a moment of double think to say, like, well, what if we intentionally make your portfolio more conservative and dial back on your retirement contributions? Because I feel like most of us spend a lot of our careers trying to get people to contribute more to their retirement accounts and
Well, hey,
and
can I
and
interrupt
get
you
get
just for a
comfortable with
minute?
risk in the markets that
Let me interrupt you just for a second. Just don't lose where you were. I just want to make sure we highlight
yeah.
you're not actually saying that because you have a fear of the market. You're saying that because
Correct.
the life plan,
Because I
the
need
cash flow
more.
plan. Right.
Yeah,
I
like
just want to make sure that's clear as you're talking.
yeah, I know because I need to because I may need to fend off a one or multi-year period where your
That's
income
right.
is
That's
reduced.
right.
And those that turn out not to be retirement assets, those turn out to be AI-driven career transition assets,
That's right. That's right.
in which case it sucks if you would have to sell things when markets also happen to get volatile through this tumultuous AI event that maybe turns out to occur. Uh, and so I need to be able to liquidate things without having the risk that I'm liquidating when they're down, and I'd rather not have to pull them
Exactly right.
out of accounts that assess penalties on said distributions as well.
That's exactly right. And I think you're right. Like that's and again, we should just emphasize here, like it's really easy to talk about being punched in the face. It's a completely different experience when you're actually the one being punched in the face. And so like with clients, this is like, hey, I mean, this is hard. And you know what? Let's get through it. You know what I mean? Like and I often think about this throughput when you're navigating complex adaptive terrain and it's uncertain. All you're really doing is there's only one way to navigate it. You get really clear about where you are today and you solve for the next local optimum. That's from the literature,
Yep.
right? So where am I today? Solve, and basically that means take the next step. Well, when volatility moves up and we're talking about volatility, it could be market volatility, but we're mainly here talking about like career,
Yeah.
life,
Your volatility.
culture, economy, volatility. When that ratchets up, the throughput of that cycle speeds up, right? The
Yep.
throughput of the where am I today? What's the next step? Where am I today? What's the next step? If in normal environments, this, with your retired client, Social Security and a pension, that's like once a year. In
Right.
this case, it may be, hey, you know what? Why don't you do a little research on this? Call me tomorrow. Hey, let's get back together next month when you find that out. Like so you just sort of, I think that's the other thing from a planning technique perspective you have in your head is like, oh, I'm moving into complex terrain
Yep.
and volatility has moved up a bit. I'm going to need to be, this is kind of the Super Bowl for me. Like I'm going to need to be here. And I'm going to also be saying to the client, hey, don't worry about that. Like, okay, let's do some projection. 2 to 3 years from now, let's like really think about this for a minute. Okay, great. Set that aside. What do you do tomorrow? Great. Go research that. Okay, cool. How about I'll call this? You know what I mean? Like you
Let me
really,
let me let me slow you down there for a moment
yeah,
because that's actually where well, the other thing I wanted to ask you about um before we wrap up here. I mean, how are you navigating this conversation with a client who's going to be saying like I'm Carl, I'm really freaking out. Like I think
yeah,
AI is going to eliminate my job, my company, my whole industry, right? I had 9 job orders, it's down to 3, it's soon to be 0. I'm freaking out and I don't know what to do.
yeah,
You're my
yeah.
financial
The
planner.
very
This is your chance to become a hero, right? Like what?
Yeah, the very first thing I do is I tell anybody on my team that's listening, like hey, would you clear the schedule for the next hour? Like I just make sure I have time.
Okay.
Like if this was a phone call, I say, hey, this sounds really important. Would it be better if we like this was if this was a meeting where I had time? So anyway, I just want to make sure I have time. So if there's a phone call, an unexpected phone call, you're like, so same process of scary markets, right? Greet with empathy. Like, I got you. I can hear you. It sounds like, yeah, when I read the news right now, I get really nervous too. Let's talk. Would it be better? What if we schedule a time? I can be free this afternoon for 90 minutes. Do you want to come in or do you want me to call you? Like, whatever. Then the very first thing I do is say, tell me about it. Like, what
Mm,
have you thought of? Like, what option? Tell me when you first started feeling this way. What did you read or what have you read that you're like, so I'm trying to get the client to understand, like, okay, I'm first of all, I'm listening to you. How does it feel? I'm not sure I'm asking how does it feel. I'm probably just trying to demonstrate that. And I'm saying like, and then I'm really like, believe me, they've thought of answers. So the more you can say, like, gosh, I can see why this would be scary. And I always like I do this with my kids. Like I'll just pause and be like, and kind of think for a second and just be like, gosh, what have you thought of?
mm.
Right. And well, geez, I could do this, or maybe it won't be as bad. Oh gosh, maybe it won't be as bad. Okay, that's interesting. I'd probably write that down. I've always wanted to, I actually do my own landscaping. I'd be great. Oh, wow. So you've actually considered landscape? Well,
Landscaping.
yeah. So write that down. Like I would do what you would do in a coaching session
Yeah.
and then be like, okay, well, geez, what do you, and I would literally say, gosh, what do you think we should do next? Like, I really want to get the client involved. Now, if the client's like, look, I have no idea. Like, I wonder if we ought to. we ought to just, one thing we could do here is, do you think it would be reasonable to make things a little simpler financially? Like, are there any commitments? Because this is the one thing we didn't mention that I would be sure to bring up. Are there any commitments that you're about to make that you could hit pause on?
Mm,
Right? Like, were you thinking about buying a new car?
yeah.
Have you guys been looking for a vacation home? I mean, we just got a new dog. Like, have you been thinking about getting a new dog? Hold. Like, are there any, and I would get down granularly too. Like, let me take some time. We'll look at the cash flow and like, are there subscriptions that can be canceled? Like, how could we get ourselves a little simpler, a little safer, a little clearer? And then I would just work our way up that ladder we already talked about. Okay, let's look at the investments. What else, could we tweak some things around the edges? Do you think it's time for that yet, or are we still exploring? Like those are the kind of questions I would be asking.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah, I like deep empathy for this. I'm having these conversations and it's so palpable for me too. But I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a daughter in med school who's coming to me almost every day saying, I don't know what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
You know, she's really good at kind of surfing uncertainty. She has been her whole life. So it's kind of an adventure, but
So
it's
the
easy
so
to
the
see how
apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
well, yeah.
Mhm.
It's really scary too.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think we just have to have deep empathy for this independent of our own feelings. We've got to have deep empathy for other people going through it.
Amen. Amen.
Cheers.
Thank
That
you,
was fun.
Carl.
Okay, talk to you soon, Michael.